name is Jay Robinson and I live in Frederick, Maryland. This is my second season in the North American Racing League, and I'm excited to drive the 321 car against the best in Division 2.
Hi, I'm Brent Cook, driver of the number 67 Epic Fails Motorsports Ferrari, and I'm from Hampton, Virginia.
Hey guys, my name is Luan Hot. I'm from Brazil, I'm 20 years old, and I'm racing for you Race BR-W2 Repro GP.
Eric Leroy, driver of the number 44 Maxwell Sim Racing Team Ferrari 296 GT3.
I'm Thomas Rayleigh, Porsche Cup Season 2 Menace, Porsche Cup Season 3 Pro-Am Champion, and I'm an Epic driver for Epic Fails Motorsports.
Just outside the Atlanta metro lies one of America's most storied road racing jewels, the esteemed Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. Boasting 12 turns and a runaway-sized back straight, it is a perfect playground for the world's top GT3 machinery and NARL's top drivers. Join us tonight for 50 minutes of racing in NARL's GT3 comeback, the Winter 2023 and 2024 season. Welcome to Pit Stop TV and the virtual Road Atlanta. My name, of course, is Andrew Cardinale IV. Good to be back for another season. I've got Daniel Hall, there we go, next to me this evening, which is really cool because this is a former driver in the North American Racing League joining me for the broadcast this evening as we open up a new season of racing. Tonight's coverage is brought to you by Infinite Racing Services, JS Consulting, Victorum, and Whiplash Sim Cams. And it is always difficult, one of the most difficult broadcasts we do, to open a season, the next difficult being the finale when we close a season out. But we are here at the virtual Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, ready to go racing for 50 minutes of action. Through all kinds of format changes, the one thing that stays consistent is that we talk about the track map first. Here at this very, very storied layout of Road Atlanta specifically. That long back straightaway, Daniel, you could literally land a plane on it, and it makes for some really good racing into the chicane.
Absolutely, and there's plenty of spots on this track. Turn 3, really treacherous after taking turn 1. You got cars joining from the right during pit stops. You got a tight blind apex corner there. Leads you right into the S's. A great section of racetrack. Hard to go too wide, but you can do it. That leads you to turn 5, a left-hander that shoots you into the short straightaway that leads to turn 6, which is a 90-degree right, and another 90-degree right in turn 7. And then you mentioned that backstretch. They literally have landed planes on there. So that is quite the run to the chicane, and then right over the hill through 11 and 12 down to the start-finish line. It's a very exciting racetrack and great for real life and the virtual world.
That's going to be here at this 2.52 mile, I almost said speedway, road course this evening. Here's a look at the full schedule. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago at Media Day, but Road Atlanta opening up our points-paying season, race number 1 officially. 10 minutes of qualifying, 50 minutes of racing, following up a 60-minute practice session. Detroit lands round number 2, which is the second time in a row that we've seen Detroit run as the second race of the season, going back now to season 3 of Porsche Cup racing earlier this year. So 2 seasons in a row going straight from a esteemed American road course to Detroit, which is very difficult for these drivers. We've got 55 cars on track this evening. To send them to the Detroit street course for round 2 is going to be one of the toughest challenges they see all season long. Then we come back after a holiday break and go straight to Watkins Glen, one of the fastest racetracks you ever see. And then we've got 3 more really fast racetracks: Daytona, Willow Springs, and Road America. There is nowhere to hide at all on this schedule. I think the most tame of these courses might actually be this evening at Road Atlanta, because everything else has its own challenge. And Road Atlanta is just a really cool racetrack, I feel like. There aren't too many crazy challenges other than the launch down into turn 10. Otherwise, you've got the street course at Detroit, you've got the S's and the boot at Watkins Glen, you've got the oval and all kinds of passes into turn 1 and the bus stop at Daytona. Willow Springs is Willow Springs, and Road America for that endurance race has a ton of challenges. The fact that you're running 2 different races in one day, a 50-minute heat and a 120-minute race, that is going to be an interesting way to cap off this season. I really feel like, for the drivers, this is the most hectic and the most calm race of the season.
Yeah, you go to a bunch of classic American circuits here. This Road Atlanta race, it might be tame. Just everyone feeling it out, getting used to the league, and knowing where all the other drivers that you're going to be racing with for this 6-race season, how they race, how aggressive they are. All of that you'll learn tonight, and then tight confines of Detroit. Street circuit next week, and then a couple classics right in the middle of this schedule. Watkins Glen, the super speedway of road courses, I like to call it. It's so fast. Daytona, an actual super speedway that they put in a couple right turns on. The big wild card for me, Andrew, is going to be Willow Springs. That's a new track to the service, and it's not really conducive to GT3 racing. We don't see it on a lot of the top level, the IMSA schedules, any of those. But I think it'll be exciting. These cars will put on a heck of a show there.
I've actually done a couple of AI races the last couple of days in preparation for this season. It is not fun to go run GT3 cars in a full field against AI at Willow Springs. Well, it's one of those things. It is fun, but it isn't fun. Very, very difficult to survive against some of those AIs. But hey, we got practice wrapping up on the racetrack. Milan Harris is the top of the bunch. And check out a new change on our ticker this evening. This season. We have got, wrong class guide. There we go. The right class guide now at the top right. We have got these guys sorted into their own classes for the first time in NARL points paying history. We have got different classes in different sections on the ticker. I think that's going to make a big, big difference this season, and I'm glad we've made this change to the ticker. So your Division 1 drivers, formerly Pro drivers, are at the top of the list. Your Division 2, formerly Pro-Am or Am drivers, I guess by class, would be at the bottom. Practice is wrapping up. Milan Harris, Ilya Speaker, though, the fastest of their respective classes. And weather conditions for those curious as practice comes to a close. 70.2 degrees in the air, 78 on track, partly cloudy. We'll see if that changes at all into our 10-minute qualifying session. It usually does vary just a little bit, and you see temps go up a little ways. I'm sure it's a little bit later in the day. Simulated a little more sun on the racetrack, and, well, came back down. But Daniel, it is good to have you. You mentioned to me earlier, of course, reminded me actually that you did run season 2 of GT3 racing here with these guys, which means you have got more experience on track with these drivers than I do, especially in these circumstances of heading out to qualifying for the first time. What is it like as a driver to head out and hit the racetrack for the first time all season with a bunch of guys you haven't turned laps around yet?
Yeah, it's always exciting to get the start of a new season. I know some of these guys race together over the course of multiple seasons, but you always get some new faces every season, and it'll be interesting to see maybe how that shakes up the lineup. And yeah, if you saw me race in season 2, you'll understand why I'm up in the booth this time.
Well, it's good to have you back in North American Racing League in any case. Jonathan Ballard, Avon Dorsey, going through a bunch of the field. A lot of Rockefeller Racing cars. We'll talk more about them, I'm sure, over the course of 50 minutes of racing. Here's Luca Bjornstange, car 248, one of our Division 2 drivers. And, of course, in addition to what you'll see on the ticker this season, you will see these drivers with their... oh, that's interesting. I hadn't updated the Audi yet. I got to get on that. I forgot that car released last week. That's an awkward moment, regardless. It's good to see the Audi on the racetrack. Jason Allen here with us out of Porsche. A lot of cars that we haven't seen before, actually, on Pit Stop TV. The new Ferrari 296, the new Audi Evo. I think even the Porsche is new from the last time we saw GT3 cars on the channel. And there you see the new Porsche 992 GT3 car. With their whatever naming convention on track for us this evening. The Ferrari seems to be the best car of the bunch, though. It seems like through season 4 of 2023 and now entering season 1 of 2024, Daniel, it seems like the Ferrari just has the edge.
Yeah, and it's always interesting to see where these new cars come out and what characteristics they have that each driver can adapt to and use to their advantage. And I think we'll see that over the season. A couple drivers will kind of pick and choose which car they want and stick with that the whole season, learn it really well, and maybe not be the fastest every time if you were to bounce around different cars. But if you know a car really well, it can pay off in the end, especially at that endurance race where you know what the car is going to do through every type of corner, the whole race, and you know how it develops over the course of a tire run, a fuel run, all of that. So we'll see two different paradigms there. If we get people that stick with one car the whole time, or bounce around, find the car of the week, and that will be interesting to see. And the updates to iRacing this season, not huge. But we did get the new Audi Evo, and also slight tweaks to the ABS and traction control. So don't know how much that's going to affect these drivers, but it will be interesting to see who takes to those new updates the best, and maybe uses that to their advantage.
Just looking through a bunch of the field, getting used to all of these new drivers in new places. I mean, we have a handful of new drivers, a few of them anyways, mostly returning drivers from past seasons in a whole bunch of new places, some with new teams, some in new cars, completely new liveries, I think, across the board. The only ones that I recognize from past seasons are these Maradness paint schemes, with their staple signature look with purple on top, that yellow stripe around the middle, and the matte black on the bottom. It looks so dang cool. But everybody else, it seems like, has their own brand new paint schemes unveiling this evening. I guess technically unveiling at Media Day last, 2 weeks ago, and now here again this evening for round number 1. Here's Bob Guadagnoli, car 64, Luan Haunt out of Brazil in car 27, Josh Lyon out there in car number 24 from Move Over Racing, brand new bright yellow and blue Ferrari, love that look for him. Sonny Brown, car 115, also in a Ferrari. I mean, we could go down the list, and I think there's still a huge majority of Ferraris, but one thing you didn't used to be able to do in this series is car hop, and you touched on it. A lot of Ferraris this evening still, but a lot of Lamborghinis that we did not have at Charlotte for Media Day. That is a big time change. Do you think that's more so from the track choice or from the updates we saw a week ago?
I think that's probably down to the track choice. I think the updates, you probably affect the new cars a little better, and the Lamborghini is not quite that old, but still the Ferrari probably got a little tweak, and the Audi could be a completely new car. Those tend to be toward the top of the field, so seeing those wouldn't be surprising, but the Lamborghini, I would guess, suits this track really well if we have quite a few drivers on it or using it tonight.
It's really interesting to see this influx of Lamborghini Huracans. We haven't seen this car be used very much since its release back in, I think 2020, 2021. That's when the car's popularity spiked, and of course it's on the same formula as that Audi R8 and has been for several years. It's just interesting to see this many Lamborghinis as Milan Harris goes to the top of the board again, faster still, in one of those Lamborghini Huracans. It's a phenomenon for sure, seeing this Huracan be the car of choice for so many drivers. Here's a look though at Victorium's own John Sedlak from Firelight Esports. That beautiful pit stop TV decal on the back certainly earns him a few brownie points, and love that paint scheme as well.
Yeah, that's a special one. It looks like it's almost reminds you of the plaid Pfaff Porsches of real life IMSA racing, but definitely got its own unique spin on it. Some bright colors and some abstract shapes there. But that car does look good, especially with that Pit Stop TV logo right across the back bumper.
That's what we live for. Shameless plugs. Alec Bergstrom, currently 7th place in qualifying in Pro classes. 3.5 minutes remain on the clock for these guys. A pretty long qualifying session, honestly. iRacing official qualifying sessions on road are only 8 minutes, so that extra 2 minutes, it might not feel like much, but it makes a big difference. Allows these guys to get a couple of extra laps in. Maybe a lap and a half, I suppose. A minute 18 around here for pole time, so a lap and a half, we'll say. That's a big difference.
Oh yeah, and it allows them to get an extra lap that can count. The qualifying's 10 minutes, best of 3 laps, so you get a little bit extra time, but you also get an extra lap compared to official racing, and that can make or break. Maybe you don't need a banker lap that you normally would if you only had 2 laps, or you go banker lap for the first lap and then go all out on the second lap. But maybe you just see all out runs for 3 straight laps as we hop on board to this Ferrari. He can't tell where he finishes. Oh, into the wall. I'm gonna guess he was done and just wanted to bring that car to a stop.
Yeah, that was Luan Haught going 14th in class, 17th overall. And of course, while we have the drivers broken down by class in our ticker, that does not mean they're going to be broken down by class on the racetrack. In fact, they will still be gridded in race in an overall format. They're going to grid up as the whole 55 car field and go racing together. There's no class splitting on the racetrack. There's only class splitting in how they earn their points, which is why the class split on the ticker is so important, because they are running their own races within the overall field. But those Division 2 drivers can hop up above some of the Division 1 drivers, give themselves some extra room to the drivers they're racing against for points, and we're seeing that in that Division 1 class. Ronaldo Carlos has a driver between himself and Dean Kerr for second place in Division 2 racing, and even between Dean Kerr and Dan Willis, there's a couple of drivers in between them, a few drivers in between Dan Willis and Ricardo Delgado, and that's your top 4 so far. Another couple of drivers between Delgado and Stage for your top 5 in Division 2. That is oh so important. We've seen that make all the difference in those championship battles in Division 2 in the past, or Pro-Am or Am, whatever class you want to call it. That has been a big-time decision maker in the points when it comes down to it.
Absolutely, and that just gives you extra room in the race, where you know you're not racing with a couple of those guys, but if you're in Division 2 and running up front, and you're surrounded by Division 1 guys, you know you don't have to fight them quite as hard. They're running kind of their own race, and you can cut them a couple breaks, knowing that you're still in a great spot for your own race, and able to run really well without really risking all that much. So that is a very important aspect of these races, even though they're all in the same car class and they should be I mean, they can all run the same theoretical speeds. It's going to be interesting to see who in that Division 2 can maybe just jump up a little bit and pass a few of those Division 1 drivers, just to give themselves some extra breathing room as we wind down qualifying.
Yeah, qualifying coming to a close. Let's talk about our Whiplash SimCam's race details. 60-minute practice sessions we talked about earlier on. That 10-minute qualifying session now coming to a close. So these drivers have been in the session now for 70 minutes, an hour and 10. Now they get to head to the grid for a 50-minute sprint race with fixed setups and 55% fuel loads. We'll talk more on that when the time comes. And we have the full iRacing GT3 category in its current state, meaning we have dropped the Audi R8 GT3 of old and added the Audi R8 Evo 2 GT3 car that was released a week and a day ago here on the iRacing.com. It's so cool too. I mean, it's the smallest of updates I think you could ever ask for to a car, but it's just cool to finally have a current Audi for the first time in my time on the sim. And this is, I'm going into my 8th year, I think, or 9th year on iRacing, and I've never had a brand new Audi to drive, which is absolutely insane. A really, really old car finally replaced by its younger brother, and now we have one less elder statesman of the class. Really, it comes down to the Ford and the McLaren now that are just that old in this GT3 category. But how about our field on the racetrack, ready to go green flag racing this evening, and a big change at pole position. Miguel Colon will sneak on through for first place. Milan Harris will start from second. Starting third place, it's Adam Brockway. The 142 starts alongside the 42 of Scott Reister, a couple of Division 1 drivers there. And in fact, we'll have a Division 1 lockdown of the top 10 before Ronaldo Carlos will start from 11th spot. However, from 5th place, it's Scott Kimbrough and Jason Allen there from 6th. We had 42s in row 2. We've got 17 and 71 in row number 3. The numerical oddities break down here in row number 4. It's John Sedlak in 7th spot, Alec Bergstrom from 8th, and to round out your top 10, Eric Leroy and John Krim.
And starting 11th is Ronaldo Carlos. He is the first Division 2 driver, and next to him is going to be the 187 of Lucas Souza, starting 12th. So 13th will be Dean Kerr in the 84, and Christian Okendo in the 21 car, starting 14th. 15th will be Will Coffey in the 57, and next to him will be the 127 of Dan Willis. 17th is Luan Hott in the 27, and Thomas Rayleigh to his outside in the car number 420. Love 46 in the traditional 46 car, starting in 19th, and starting 20th is Ricardo Delgado.
The 21st spot, it's Jake Luther, one of our Division 1 drivers, alongside a new entry as of today, Bobby Flack, car number 22. Bjorn Stange, position 22, car number 188. Bjorn Stange, there we go, 23rd spot, alongside Joe Nagy out of Division 1 in the 24th position. In connection issues, as there we go, Brent Cook for 25th, Charles Hosey from the 26th spot. I finally got clarification on how to pronounce his name. EJ Nixon from 27th position, car 177, Mike Braun from 28th in car number 107. Continuing on and completing the top half of the field or so, Andy Miller, Stacy Bertrand, that is row 15 to cap off your top 30.
Starting 31st will be Nick Mercer, Division 1 competitor, car number 77, and Aubrey Kundle starting 32nd in car 53. Dominic Turcotte in car 73 will start 33rd, and Jonathan Ballard will start 34th. 35th spot will be Keith Wilfred in the 48 machine, and to his outside is Ilya Speaker in the 6 car. 37th will be Josh Lyon in the 24, and Michael Puchik in car 23, starting at his outside. And rounding out row 20 will be Sonny Brown in the 115, and Martin Raminga.
Scott Angelo rolls off from 41st. Austin Tiller from 42nd spot. 43rd position in qualifying going to go to Avon Dorsey. Then Jeff Fleischman there in 44th. This pace lap has taken a while, which is perfect for these connection blips and this long grid, because 45th is Robert Snar. Brett Giacomo will start from 46th. We still have other cars. We're going to rush through the back end here. 47th, Philip Bedurka. 48th, Bob Guadagnoli. 49th, Billy Bowerman. 50th, Otto Rosa. 51st will be Nicholas Sykes. 52nd, Jay Robinson. 53rd, Glenn Dryden. 54th, Sean Patterson. And 55th position, Wayne Grenon. It looks like we've had some kind of failure. Oh boy. GT3 racing is not working for us this season. I don't know what just happened.
Yeah, I don't know. The popularity can sometimes be a downfall when it comes to sending cars and connecting over the internet. So we'll see. Hopefully we can get these technical glitches worked out, but looks like we might not have any cars on track. So
well, we've had to abandon the start of the broadcast. The race start, it looks like, has gone on, and we had issues with this back at Charlotte 2 weeks ago for Media Day. I don't know if this is going to be a server-wide issue. This is painful. I don't know if it's just GT3. I'd love if anybody has experiences to share. Excuse me, I've got a very hoarse throat still from last week. This is not new to me, I guess. We've had problems like this in the past, but this kind of widespread issue with the drop of some new cars and just a new season, that part's new to me.
yeah, and every detail that they add seems to to make it more taxing on the computers. So that's the cost of improvements, I guess. But we'll get these sorted out here and hopefully bring you some fine racing action from the NARL before too long. But scenic shots of Road Atlanta for the time being.
And admittedly, it may be client side on our end. What we're going to do is we're going to load back into the session. We're actually going to replay then the driver intro video for this season, a few different driver introductions. And hey, drivers, if you don't see yourself in this video, which most of you will not, you can still send in those asset submissions for season number 5 here. You can still get your introduction video in the broadcast. Let's go ahead and play that.
My name is Jay Robinson, and I live in Frederick, Maryland. This is my second season in the North American Racing League, and I'm excited to drive the 321 car against the best in Division 2.
Hi, I'm Brent Cook, driver of the number 67 Epic Fails Motorsports Ferrari, and I'm from Hampton, Virginia.
Hey guys, my name is Luan Hot. I'm from Brazil, I'm 20 years old, and I'm racing for you Race BR W2 Repro GP.
Eric Leroy, driver of the number 44 Maxwell Sim Racing Team Ferrari 296 GT3.
I'm Thomas Rayleigh, Porsche Cup Season 2 Menace, Porsche Cup Season 3 Pro-Am Champion, and I'm an epic driver for Epic Fails Motorsports.
I'm Luan Hot, and you are watching North American Racing League on Pit Stop TV.
I'm Jay Robinson. You're watching the North American Racing League on Pit Stop TV.
Eu sou o Luan Hot e você está assistindo North American Racing League na Pit Stop TV.
We rejoin you at the virtual Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta as the sim is about to open back up for us. The race has gone on. It's going to take a moment for iRacing paints to repopulate, but guys, we are back in the sim. That's what matters. So, lap 1 definitely complete by now. I think this might be lap number 2 as we rejoin, and no, lap 3 even, and we've got problems there for car number 5. That'll be Glenn Dryden in the back. Up front, though, John Sedlak has taken over as we rejoin the sim and get back to it. Hey, technical blips, they happen sometimes. What matters is we've got cars back on track here, Daniel Hall, and we are continuing on. Sedlak with the race lead, and Ronaldo Carlos from the Division 2 field is up into 5th position now overall.
Yeah, that's a great start for him to start putting some distance between him and the rest of his Division 2 competitors. kind of put some Division 1 cars that he's not directly racing in between. That's always a good strategy. But glad to be back, and we'll hopefully these cars will stay on the track this time.
Milan Harris here, our pole sitter, dropped in behind Scott Kimbrough very early, and I have to imagine there was some drama at the start because we do not have our pole sitter up here. I gotta remind myself of his name. I know I would remember if I saw it. Oh man, Miguel Colon, and he is back here in 24th in class. Of course, unsure as to what happened to him as far as the broadcast goes. I'm sure we'll learn something if we're able to talk to Milan Harris after the race. Scott Reister, purple that lap. By the way, weather conditions in the sim before we have another disconnection or something like that. 70.6 degrees in the air, 77 on track. So now, that deep breath. We can take that deep breath and get settled in here because we have what looks to be a stable connection. Hopefully that isn't a common thing this season. But hey, we've got cars racing back here in Love 46. She's got no front end.
Yeah, that, and I think I saw a couple cars on the pit lane right there, and that usually means that something major has happened. So I think we missed a little bit of the action while we're gone, but yeah, you can see a few cars on the pit lane. Looks like the 187 car of Lucas Souza now. So he had trouble. Martin Graminga, he's rolling off. Must have got some repairs, and he's back out on the track. But
Stacy Bertrand
yeah,
also lapped down here, and she's not alone. Glenn Dryden, Adam Brockway, Sonny Brown. So your assessment is definitely correct to some degree, as Sonny Brown's got problems in turn 5. That is a precarious place to be parked. It looks like he's going to tow to the pit lane, and he will.
Yeah, turn 5 is tricky. If you get off just wrong, as we see a replay here, we'll see what happens to Sonny. It looks like he's going slow through the S's, maybe letting a few cars by, and see how he gets through turn 5.
Wow.
Hits the curb and just kind of goes off. I wonder if he had some other issues with that car.
Yeah, that's a very confusing situation. He was exiting the pit lane. This is just leading up to that moment. And, exiting the pits. Oh, that's not going to help him. 107 car, Mike Braun? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
Mike Braun spun around. That's a problem for him. He is dropping down the order quickly, so he's had many, many issues. And Sonny's just trying to let this field go by. Suddenly, he comes down to the bottom of the S's, and the car just goes straight.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, he had to take evasive action coming out of the pit lane to avoid his Empire Racing teammate there, and probably picked up a penalty. Yeah, so I think he might just pull it off and he might call it a night on that one. As we see Mike Braun, looks like just through turn 1, got a little sideways, maybe touched the grass a little bit, and ooh, that was close. They were lucky not to make major contact there, as it's kind of tricky to see there. Sometimes there's some blind crests, and you can come over one of those and a car will be right in front of you and you have nowhere to go. And luckily that didn't turn out too bad for either of them.
I promise you're not looking at a broadcast of Ferrari Challenge, but there are 4 or 5 on the screen currently. Dean Kerr dropped well through the field. He's down to 11th in class in Division Number 2, 27th overall. Not sure exactly what happened, but it happened during that replay sequence. So he has dropped through the field. You see well, I guess you can't see that he started way higher, but he's been a lot higher than that. Unfortunate for Dean, but he dropped a few positions at the very least. And Ronaldo Carlos is starting to get some company up front. He's only 2 seconds now ahead of Dan Willis. Alec Bergstrom went by car number 9 to get that position. So Willis now just has the objective ahead with an all-white paint scheme on that Ferrari to just go catch the race leader.
Yeah, it's head down and just try to make up that ground. You're behind by 2 seconds. It's still a long way to go, but you don't want to fall any farther back than that. So his goal right now is just to put in some clean laps and maybe run some qualifying pace if he can, and try to run down the lead of his division. On
board here with Willis, and think the gains will be a little bit slow going, not making much up here on this lap at the very least. Lap number 8 of an expected 39. And, you know, earlier we talked a little bit about the fuel limitation. These guys have 55% fuel load. Usually a full fuel load for these cars is what, 18, 19 gallons of fuel? You can calculate that to liters. I'm not bothered. We use American units. Bald Eagles and McDonald's cheeseburgers. There we go. That
use anything but a kilometer.
Right. That 55% is going to be what, 10 gallons, 11 gallons, something in that range, which means they have to pit. Of course, they can't make a full 50 minutes, but there's a little bit of leniency with it being 50 minutes as opposed to 60. If it was 60 minutes, a little over half fuel, you would be right at about 28 to 32 minutes of racing before you have to come down the pit lane, depending on if you want to play the longer first stint or the longer second stint. This, 10 minutes less is going to open that up a little bit, but I think for the most part we'll still see these guys go as long as they can and have the cars as light as they can for as long as possible.
Yeah, and that's the usual strategy is to go as long as you can, but having it at 50 minutes, it does open that up a little bit, and we might see some strategy calls. If you're in traffic, if you're stuck behind some cars that are right about your pace, maybe a little slower, but you can't quite get around them, you might duck in the pits earlier and get some clean tracks so you can kind of undercut them and jump out in front of them. So I do like the idea of having a couple strategy plays that you can call to benefit your race, and that the forcing the pits with the fuel limitation definitely allows some strategy.
Yeah, it's been a great addition to the series ever since it was first introduced, which was, of course, the start of the league. We've got a big battle back here. Andy Miller, Nicholas Sykes, Bjorn Stain, Sean Patterson. These guys are in a really thick battle as they head over the top of the S's and down through those S's now to the bottom of the hill at turn 5. Always kind of funnels drivers out, and it does exactly that here. Stain gets the advantage over Nick Sykes, and somewhere in there, Andy Miller, that bright and yellow 3 car, he is 14th in Division 1, but we cannot get too far away from this fight, as that's the change for the race lead. Milan Harris up through and past John Sedlak, there we go, for the first position, that's right, for the race lead. That is a big change at the front of the field 12 minutes in.
That was a big move into the chicane, and just having to send it there. Not very much space between those cars, as now we're on board with Milan Harris, and he's going to look to pull away from John Sedlak, but John is not letting him out of his sights, and they've got Scott Kimbrough right behind them in a Ferrari, looking to stay right on the tail, join this battle for the lead.
The driver base has definitely changed this season, Daniel. What I like about it is we've taken the guys that were kind of mid-pack, always having those great fights that we couldn't focus on as much because the big guys were fighting out front. These guys are now the front. They've been promoted, right? They are the top of the race. We get to watch these guys go full throttle and send it on one another for battles we never thought we'd see in the past. This is a big move, as you mentioned, from Milan Harris up through and just across the nose of that Firelight Porsche.
Yeah, not sure I would have wanted to be between those cars at that moment. There did not seem to be much space. But yeah, you mentioned it. The battles all up and down the field, but just unfortunately the limitations is we can't show them all, even though there's great battles ever.
Milan Harris takes the race lead one lap, loses it all the next lap in the same exact corner. Turn number 10, that Lamborghini goes rear over tea kettle and loses all kinds of spots. He's down to 8th. He's going to maybe drop to 9th as he holds up the Audi of Will Coffey. Luan Hot trying to go by. We've got 3 Division 1 hotheads on one another. A big block here from Harris. He comes back over in front of Hot, nearly turns into Will Coffey, and Will's finally going to get by as you have one of the BMWs leaving the pit lane ahead. That's going to choke these guys up even more through the S's.
Yeah, great move there by Will to take the spot away into turn 1. But yeah, now they're right behind traffic. And we mentioned in the pre-race where that pit lane exit just dumps you right onto the racing surface. So we'll see if these Division 1 kind of leaders can make it through those drivers coming out of the pits that probably dealt with some issues early on in this race. But yeah, Will Coffey was able to seal the deal and maintain that spot. He's going to try to run down the next car in front of him.
Milan Harris started from second, dominated the opening sessions of Media Day a couple of weeks ago, and again here at Road Atlanta for round one. Unfortunately, edged out in both races, I believe. Well, in Media Day, he lost connection, as did many of us. Today, he lost out on pole position. Something happened at the start. John Sedlak took over the race lead. Milan got it back for a lap. It immediately lost it when he came back through turn number 10. Problems for car 95. He's got the speed, clearly, I think, to be the top driver of the league. He just can't quite get the race part down, whether it's within or outside of his control. It's just, life is really reaching out and biting car 95 so far. And now Will Coffey getting checked up behind this particular Mercedes. We're about to have some fun.
Oh yeah, we'll see if he makes a move. Yeah, he does through the S's.
Oh!
Like
Big contact. I think that's Otto Rosa. That is a big hit for, I believe that was the 98 car, 96 maybe? There we go. That was Timothy Patterson. We'll take a look back at the replay.
Yeah, it looked like he was trying to let that group of faster cars by, and it just did not work out for him quite as he would have hoped. So we'll see it here. Go through turn one. He knows he's got some faster cars breathing down his neck. So he goes wide, I think, outside of this corner. And let's Will Coffey by and just drifted over. Too many cars going for too few a space, and real estate runs out quick on these tight and twisty courses like Road Atlanta.
And I'll be the first to say, as a lapped car, you should hold the racing line, but I really don't know if there's anything else he could have done here. He got off the racing line, which I'll allow for one reason. It's the S's at Road Atlanta. If there's ever a time to let drivers have a corner instead of staying predictable on the racing line, it might be the S's, just because otherwise you're going to get yelled at and probably crashed from just being in the way. So drivers might want you to get out of the way. He does that here. Patterson goes offline, and unfortunately Luan just comes over, a short side on his part, I think, and smashes into the 96. Certainly not intentional, just a mistake. And that happens through the S's at Road Atlanta. Again, I would still err away from ever suggesting a driver move over like that there, but at the same time, if he doesn't, drivers, being drivers, are going to get upset and chirp the radio, if not, maybe use the car to get by in the first place.
Yeah, and that'll just come with experience. As you race more of these races, as you get into the endurance side of stuff, you'll have to deal with traffic a lot more, and that's just something you got to build up over time. And if you don't have the speed, you got to know where on the track you can let somebody by, where on the track you have to kind of maintain. And the S's are tricky because it's basically a single lane through there to be fast. And if you let somebody by there, you really have to let them by there. You can't really race them at all. And yeah, like you said, you might get yelled at a little bit, but it's a decision you have to make, and unfortunately that decision they made at that particular time did not work out for him.
Some teammates racing here, Christian Okendo and Miguel Colon, both out of Division 1, a little behind the 8 ball this evening. As they they swap spots in 29th and 30th overall. They chase Scott Angelo and Dean Kerr, who are teammates in different classes. Angelo from Division 1, Kerr from Division 2. They will now swap as they run, it looks like, 27th and 28th, and they're just behind Brent Cook. And now Dean Kerr goes offline and allows these teammates to go by ahead of turn 1 as they work on to lap 14. It's still expecting 38 out of these drivers across the board, and we've got ourselves a little fight developing for P3. Daniel, this is a pretty good one, too. Jason Allen, Alec Bergstrom, 3rd and 4th.
Yeah, we'll see. Not quite close enough to make a move through there, but that is a really tight part on the racetrack to make a move into that turn 10 chicane. So we'll follow this battle along a little bit and see if they can sort out who's going to stay on the final step of that podium. But there's still 30 minutes left, so there's quite a few chances. And wow, I don't know how he held on to that. We're back on the battle with Will Coffey and Lewin Hott. And looks like Hott's going to be able to hold on to, I think that's 8th place. And they're looks like they'll get through the S's a little bit better this time than we saw them last time. But this battle is really heating up for these. I think those 4 cars all covered by a blanket pretty much. and they are going to be racing all race, I'm guessing.
Yeah, the Huracan of Milan Harris drove away from this bunch, but the Audi and the couple of Ferraris right behind, that's Will Coffey, Lou Hot, Joe Nagy, and even Ricardo Delgado not far back in that Lamborghini just behind. So 4 cars in a really good fight as they go by. It looks like Otto Rosa out of turn number 7. That was a big moment, though, from Luen. He had an advantage into turn 12, and maybe you could force that on AI because they have to give you room or crash, but Will Coffey, he's racing you, he's a human, he does not want you to go by. That was scary, and I did that myself earlier in some AI races. Again, getting warmed back up to GT3 racing, that is a scary place to put a Ferrari. It doesn't matter what setup you're on, you go and hit those curves, and probably any car, and you're going to have an interesting time going back onto the racetrack. Luen Hot, though, held on when I couldn't earlier. I'm proud of him for doing so here, but that's going to be scary, and wow! That was scary in turn 1.
Yeah, it looks like Will had to back way out of it. He's going to lose a bunch of spots. He's going to go to the back of this 4-car pack. That's unfortunate for him, but I think he realized, all right, this guy's going to send it in here, and I'm not going to risk taking in my race early. So he discretion's the better part of valor sometimes, and that's what he did there.
Great saying. I've never heard that before, but that is a fantastic way to put it. Meanwhile, 3rd and 4th, Alec Bergstrom and chasing Allen. Bergstrom chasing, Allen defending. Not much battling happening now, but this is going to be a battle we have to watch as we've got a crash. Ricardo Delgado, Joe Nagy in the midfield. We were just watching these guys, and they crashed in turn 7. And that is a terribly damaged 777.
Yeah, midfield of the race, but Delgado, I believe, was running top 3 of Division 2, yes. So that's going to put a damper on his race. That was looking like it was going to be a pretty solid run for him.
Yeah, let's see what happens here to Nagy. This might be a little bit hectic down at turn 10. I'm surprised this Ferrari isn't backwards yet. I'm impressed. No rear end, that means no diffuser, no rear wing. The pit lane entry is going to be a little bit scary. I am thoroughly impressed. That is
not a lot of downforce left on that car.
No, you've got everything, every front downforce device left, everything in the rear gone. Here's look what happened. This is Joe Nagy loose in 6, and car inside into 7. That again is just one of those moments I think these drivers will have to learn from. If I'm Ricardo there, especially being top 3 in my class, in the lower class, I'm not going to make that move.
Yeah, I think that's one where you just kind of sit back, wait a little bit. The driver made a mistake, but turn 7 is not a place where the door is really all that open. It looks like it's open. It's really inviting. It's kind of a wide entry, but it's such a slow speed, kind of off camber. It's got some rough parts and some bumps, and you really got to make the pass stick there. You see he gets a little bit of a run, looks to the inside, but I don't know if he had quite as much overlap as he thought heading into turn 7.
Yeah, that simply was not going to do it. We've got a pit stop, though. Our race leader is headed to the pit lane. That is John Sedlak from Firelight Esports, IMB Raceware on board. And he has come in for his first service of the season. This was our next little segue. We have multiple drivers starting to hit the pit lane. Sedlak comes in from the front. Luen Hot now heads down to the pits. We've also recently had Charles Hosey in the pit lane and a bunch of drivers further back. I mean, Love 46 is on our out lap. Otto Rosa pitted a couple of laps ago. Pit lane is starting to pick up for sure.
And it looks like a couple of these drivers are making some decisions on tires to take, because they'll stop, and some of the recent updates to the GT3s allow them to change tires and fuel at the same time. So I think we saw a couple drivers there take probably 2 tires. I don't think there's enough time in the amount of fuel you're adding to the car to take all 4 tires, but you might find the 2 tires. I think traditionally the front tires wear the most, and it's nice to get some fresh rubber on there and head back out on the road. So as we see a couple drivers maybe not take tires, that's a decision to make.
Personally, I would try and go no tires, and I think you'll learn a lot from this first race. We always traditionally have. You'll learn very quickly if you should or should not take tires, literally in just this first race. Traditionally, seasons back, it's been just get fuel, go back out. Two tires might work at some of these racetracks, but it seems like it just kind of slows you down. It puts you back on cold tires. We're going to find out real quick, though, as here comes Bergstrom into the pit lane and everybody else starting to make their way in. Will Coffey this lap, teammate this season to Aubrey Kundle, he's in. How about Ricardo Delgado, that Lamborghini that was in that crash with Joe Nagy, he's in. And everybody is going to have to make a decision very quickly. Do you pit this lap, the next lap, and the lap after? I think that's as far as you get.
Yeah, I think the pit window is open, but it won't be open very long. So we'll see what drivers come in now as we see Scott Kimbrough on screen. He's inherited the lead. He was up in that battle, so we'll see where he comes out in relation to Sedlak, who I believe he was racing before the pit stop. So we'll see as he goes through the chicane, crests over turn 11. He's going to stay out, so he might be trying to go long, as you mentioned earlier, where you can go long and run the car as light as possible for as long as possible.
Problems here, Scott Reister. Yeah, this has been a botched pit lane entry. This is going to be a big hit for car 42, unfortunately. Let's ride on board with a brand new Audi. This is actually the first one I've seen the interior aside from building cameras. Big problems here, unfortunately, for Scott Reister. Here's the onboard. The driver's eye.
It's a little loose out of turn 10 anyway, and he's just trying to carry speed, and yep, it bit him. Carried too much speed, and it just it stepped out, and he lost control. So that's going to be. It doesn't look like the car's going to be completely destroyed, although it might have been crabbing a little bit. Yeah, as we see here, it just looks like he locks up, and rear end of it comes around and smashes into that tire barrier. Maybe that was a bigger hit than I thought. That was right at the end of that pit lane wall. So he's gonna have to get repaired and back out on the track.
Thankfully, that fast repair just came in clutch for car 42. Otherwise, he'd be in the pit lane for a while. Pit stops, they're picking up, but very slowly it seems. I mean, Scott Kimbrough still on the racetrack. There we go. He's going to come in. Jason Allen should come in this lap of the way. There we go. Yep. Everybody coming in.
Yeah, the rest of the field coming in. This is probably about as far as they can go. So we'll see a whole string of cars come out, and then we'll find out what strategy paid off. We had some cars pit early, and then now we have a lot of cars coming in now. Looks like Jake Luther's going to go long, and he's going to inherit the lead, at least for a little bit.
We've had a lot of BOP updates to GT3 cars lately. One of them, on some cars, I believe, has been fuel burn rate. Usually that's a change you see in GTP or LMH. That might have something to do with why this Porsche went a lap extra. I'm not sure. But he could be on the verge of running out. That's going to be something we monitor this next lap as the field cycles out of the pit lane. Sedlak over Kimbrough. Then it's Bergstrom going to be cycling to third. Jason Allen will cycle to fourth. And Ronaldo Carlos will hang on to the Division II race lead. Dan Willis, Josh Lyon, that's the battle for second.
Yeah, and we mentioned John Sedlak coming in early. He's in a Porsche as well, so he could pit early and take on the fuel that he needs to get to the end. So that would be why the Porsches can kind of benefit from being first into the pits or last into the pits in both directions. So I think we'll see Jake Luther come in. Yep, he's ducking down into pit road now. We'll see, he looks like he's going to get in clean, nice, and no issues like we've seen a couple drivers have. So he's in the pits. He will relinquish that lead, but John Sedlak going to take over the lead with Scott Kimbrough in tow. So pitting early might have been the strategy play. It looks like there's a little bit of a gap between them.
And part of that play, too, to pit early is going to be to get out of traffic. If you start to encounter that heavy traffic, you can pit, get out of the way, and drop back to some drivers that are just deeper in the field, as Dan Willis has a problem just ahead of Blue and Hot. He drops out of second place in Division 2, racing with Josh Lyon, who actually has to pit this lap. So it's going to work out, I think, for Dan. He might hang on to second in class, but it's going to be a lot further back and possibly out of range of the race win. Next up in Division 2, looks like, well, the numbers are finally getting sorted. Ricardo Delgado looks like will be next up in Division 2. So if we index where Division 2 runs right now, Ronaldo Carlos Might be on his way to be Division 1 here soon. He is 5th overall. He is in turn 6 and turn 7. Dan Willis, I think he just came over the hill at turn 5. He did. Ricardo Delgado, he is just behind Dan Willis, so he heads down to turn 6 now. Jonathan Ballard, though, 4th place in class. He's coming through the S's now. There is a big-time disconnect between your top 3, each of them, and even more so between the top 3 and 4th place.
We might have a couple cars making the step up to Division 1 after this race and some of the adjustments to the roster there. But yeah, it looks like some good runs for the top 3 in Division 2, and a decent gap back to kind of the rest of the class. So we'll see what happens there. We might have some restructuring, but still good days for Carlos and Willis and Delgado there.
John Sedlak. This is a big-time day for him. We've seen some struggles in seasons past. He's never seemed to really mesh with the Porsche Cup car. That said, in the Porsche GT3 car, he seems like he's got it suddenly, and he's been putting in a lot of work this year, 2023 in particular, not just on the racetrack, but Victorium has become a big part of his life. That is the new scoring provider, the new scoring partner of the North American Racing League. A big shout out as well to Infinite Racing Services, bringing us the racing this season. But John Sedlak has embarked on a really wild year. He's got kids of his own. He's got racing here as a driver. He's got his scoring platform endeavors that he's been making this year. And he went and joined Firelight Esports and is a big part over there in their road team. They've got the Daytona 24 coming up. They've got all kinds of things going on. In fact, recently they were in the Moon Car 24 Hours of Martinsville, which isn't exactly road racing, but hey, it used the Mazda Miata. That's a road car, right? It's just been a big year for John and everything he's been associated with. To suddenly be leading out of the gate round 1 of the North American Racing League, this is a big deal for somebody who's had a very strugglesome couple of seasons recently. Not much to write home about. That is changing today, absolutely changing the tides. 16 laps led. We still have 18 and a half minutes to go. This is a really good day so far, and yes, I'll knock on wood for the guy. I would hate to jinx it.
Yeah, and sometimes life gets busy and everything, and that makes you focus on some stuff more. And he's definitely put in the work in the sim to be fast, because there's a lot of quick guys that he's racing against, and he is leading them all. So he's definitely got some stuff going right for him today. So we'll see if he can keep it up all season. That'd be great for him. We go on board and we see the in-car view of the Porsche, the 992 911 GT3R, I believe it's called. something like that. They do like to keep us on our toes. As we go back to the battle for 4th on track, that is Allen and Bergstrom going through turn 1, up through turn 2 and 3 leading into the S's.
Yeah, nice little fight here. Jason Allen, Alec Bergstrom, as you mentioned, 3rd place. They've swapped spots since the pit stop. I guess over the pit stop, they swapped positions. Bergstrom actually filled a bit long in his stop by comparison. Excuse me. I'm not sure where the change happened exactly in the pit cycle, but Bergstrom had a longer pit stop and overtook car number 71 for the 3rd position. Something tells me, though, this might not last. The SimCity Racing Porsche right on the coattails of that Maradnas Ferrari.
Yeah, and that might be something where if he took tires, it might be a little bit longer of a pit stop, but he could be paying the dividends now as we wind down the last 16 and a half minutes or so of this race, where those fresh tires come in and allow him to make some overtakes. As we see Ballard back in the pits. I believe back in the pits. I don't know if he's made a stop before, but he is back rolling now.
He's not the only one. Leroy just pitted as well. You do not want to pit after that initial cycle, and they just had to. Looks like Miguel Colon. I don't have him as coming down the pit lane just yet. I don't know if maybe there was a lag spike for him. Of course, he was our pole sitter. he might just now be coming up to the point where he has to pit, considering he started, started from pole position and had something happen in the opening couple of laps. I'm not sure when he's going to pit, but it has to be soon.
Yeah, I wonder if some of those drivers that kind of had some early issues took on fuel, and then that allows them to run a little bit longer now, but they will have to pit again. You can't make 50 minutes or 45 minutes or 40 minutes even with this fuel restriction. So that will be interesting to see when they come in, but he's going to do all he can to make up as many positions on track as he can right now and see how it shakes out after he has to pit.
Meanwhile, Jake Luther, we've seen him take an interesting approach to this race, pitted latest of all of our lead drivers. He pitted 4 laps ago. The next closest was Scott Kimbrough 5 laps ago, so he took that extra lap. He's now on Luan Hot like glue. These two very close together. 2 very different race cars, the Ferrari 296, the Porsche 992, and they are in very different pit situations. Luan Hot pitted now 9 laps ago, Luther now 5 laps ago. Big difference, especially if they took any tires, which I'm not sure either one did. I mean, they each took 18.4 seconds in the box. That screams to me they might have just taken fuel.
Yeah, that seems to be right on par with what we were seeing in the pit cycle. So I could definitely see them both being out there on tires they've had the whole race. And there's something to be said about that too. If you have the same set of tires, you're not gonna have to deal with any tire warm up coming out of the pits, and the car's kind of gonna drift or slide across the track the same way. You're not gonna have one axle kind of have more grip than the other, so it might be a little more predictable if you haven't practiced on a half-used set or not. So that's something these drivers are going to figure out, and we'll see what happens in this race and going forward into the season.
You know what we haven't talked about yet today?
What's that?
Driver of the day. And this is something we started a couple of seasons ago. I think right after season 2, as there goes the Epic Fails Motorsports machine. I believe, was that... Actually, I'm not sure who that was. It was their Audi. I think Thomas Rayleigh it was. Spinning out of turn 1. He gets back going. It looks like without a scratch. But driver of the day is something we can do for these drivers. And we can only, unfortunately, still do 4 drivers out of 1 race. So what we can do then is do 2 drivers out of Class 1, Division 1, 2 drivers out of Division 2. And since you're new to this, Daniel, we each get to nominate a driver from each division then. I'm going to open the floor straight to you, put you right on the spot. We've seen a lot of racing, aside from the opening 2 laps. A lot of drivers doing some really cool stuff on the racetrack. Some drivers having some mistakes, and everybody in their own kind of scenario, as you usually see in these GT3 races. If you had to nominate, well, you have to nominate drivers. So if you got to nominate a driver first up, it can be either division first up. Who do you nominate for driver of the day for our fans on YouTube to vote for?
Oh, I will take the easy pickings and call out John Sedlak, because he has driven a phenomenal race. We just saw him have to avoid some chaos right in front of him through turn 1 on the previous lap. So I would say he's probably my favorite for driver of the day. He's leading. He's got a 2 3/4 second lead over Scott Kimbrough for P2 or in Division 1. So he's probably my first bet for driver of the day.
You're out here taking my teammate. Did you know that? You're taking my teammate away from me. This guy. I'll bounce back, though, and I'm going to go ahead and take 100% Ronaldo Carlos. He's a Division 2 driver, which divisions are set by iRating. Oh, no! Oh. No, the curse gets no better than that.
That was just impeccable timing. You could not explain the announcer curse any better without showing that clip right there.
Ronaldo Carlos hard on the outside wall at a turn 5. I might have just cursed this man. Wanted to nominate him for driver of the day. And you know what? I'm still going to, because of how well he was doing for 48 minutes, I guess 38 minutes of this race. We're still going to put car 9 on the list. I have to, as a consolation, after maybe dooming him to this fate. Unbelievable. Literally, as the sentence exits my jaw there, He puts it in the wall, and that is a big hit. He's got to come to the pit lane. There's no way that car is going to limp around. He might still hang on to a top 3, though. He's got a big gap back to Josh Lyon. If he can get in and out quickly with just a fast repair, he might not lose a top 3 position. And now that opens the race up to Dan Willis and our next nomination. So you've got to go somebody else from Division 2. Who's it going to be?
I think you're looking at him now. He just took over the lead. I get the easy picks here, I guess. So I'm going to go Dan Willis. He's been keeping... He wasn't too far off Ronaldo Carlos, so he's still in there, but he's going to inherit the lead, and if he can keep it clean, he will be sitting pretty for this race.
I think Ronaldo Carlos may have taken his fast repair at his pit stop, and that is a huge mistake sometimes. To take that quick repair for something small early in the race and not have it in case you need it later on, that is a huge mistake today. For car number 9, and he's going to have to pay the price. Meanwhile, how about my Division 1 nominee? I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to look for him really quick. Miguel Colon was somewhere deep in this field. As low as 41st. That's when we came back from our lap 1, I guess lap 0 mishap with the server issues. Miguel Colon has driven the 14th, now 13th position, passing 12th position, passing Love 46 and Ronaldo Carlos. This is a big day for him to come back from 41st to 12th. He is going to salvage this points day, and if he needs to rely on a different race for his drop, now he can, because this race will still be pretty decent. It's 12th in class, 14th on the racetrack. That's not bad at all. I gotta give it to somebody who's making the best of a really bad situation. Miguel Colon, I think, is deserving of this one. You don't see that kind of day very often from somebody who gets taken out early, whether it's his own doing or not. That's rare to see out of somebody. So our poll will go up now. It's eligible for all of you YouTube viewers to vote on. We've got some pretty interesting options out there. Hopefully it doesn't all pile on Dan Willis. Hopefully we get some recognition for Ricardo Delgado, but certainly a wide array of nominees.
Absolutely, and all these drivers are deserving of the award. So we'll see how it shakes out, and we'll see what the last 8 minutes of this race holds in store for all of them.
I've been asked to stop talking about John Sedlak, and that's very valid after what we just saw. But we're going to go through the different drivers of the day possibilities. There's Miguel Colon back there, car number 87. So on this graphic, you'll be able to see who all you can vote for. We'll cycle through them. You can also, of course, get car number 127. That'll be Dan Willis. And last but not least, of course, car number 9, Ricardo Delgado. 7 minutes to go, though, and things are picking up in some spots and dying down in others. We got a battle for 7th as Luther has gone on by Luan Hot. That's really a battle on the way out, but they could still get back to racing.
Yeah, as we see Hot right on the tails of the 19 car, so that battle's still going on. We'll see if he can pick up any draft and make a move down the straightaway and jump on board now with Andy Miller. He is running 14th, trying to run down Love 46, which I believe is right in front of him, maybe a car or two in front. So he's got some work to do, but he's going to try to make up that ground in the last few minutes of this race. So improve his position a little bit and maximize his finish position on the day.
And Love 46 is the car directly ahead here of Andy. Brand new paint scheme. For Love. We'll look at it in just a second. We have a lot of team affiliations, and I'm not necessarily bargaining for votes, but I am putting the broadcast link over in the Firelight Esports Discord just to make sure they're aware. John Sedlak is doing pretty good. But Love 46, look at this brand new paint scheme for her. I don't think this is going to stick. I think this is a switch up for her. She usually drives the Audi. I think this is just what she could find for the Ferrari. I think it'll be something different if she sticks with this 296 later in the season. But it definitely catches your eye as she defends here for 13th spot in class, right behind Miguel Colon. And we've now got maybe a battle shaping up again between Luther and Hot. These guys, very close.
Yep, battle for 7th in Division 1. Luther's maintained that position just in front of Hot, but he is definitely putting the pressure on now. We're approaching 5 minutes left in this race. That's when it picks up, and you know you got to be perfect and not give your competitors an inch. And if you can stay clean, you might be able to hold them off, but the pressure is really getting put on by Hot there as they climb up through 11 down into turn 12. And that's really the highest loaded part of the track, and that's where we've seen some issues today, and you'll probably see that as long as this track still has this configuration.
Oh boy, problems here. Bob Guadagnoli. I don't often get to talk to drivers throughout the field, really for any reason other than interviews. But Bob was a driver who needed some help with getting his decals on for this season. And unfortunately, he has found a very odd place to park a Ferrari 296. In fact, to my knowledge, you cannot park there, sir. But let's take a look at how he got there. Position 36, he's got Scott Kimbrough going by, who's second place overall. Kimbrough is going to go left side, Guadagnoli outside. And he's going to get deep on the brakes into Scott. Then here comes Scott Reister on the far side of it in his Audi as Bob overshot the corner. Bob spins around and unfortunately backs it right into that concrete wall.
Yeah, it looks like he had to take that corner slower than he was anticipating, and kind of the other drivers around him were anticipating, and it just 2 into 1 does not go, and that's what the result is. So unfortunate for him. Looks like his day is not going to go as well as he would have hoped, but yeah, we'll see that. But back up front with John Sedlak, he's stretched that lead out a little bit, 3.5 seconds now over Scott Kimbrough. So he's been laying it down and keeping it going pretty quick.
John Sedlak still leading the show, 3.3 seconds, and I know there's some hubbub about the battle, guys, for Division 2, but it's a 2-second gap. Ricardo Delgado is way behind. Dan Willis still. 3 minutes to go. I wouldn't usually say a second and change, a second and a lot of change is way behind. I mean, mid-race, this isn't a very significant gap yet, but when you've got 3 minutes to go, unless lap traffic gets in the way of that 127 who is up, by the way, for vote for driver of the day, and especially Delgado running into the grass there, that is a big mistake for him to make if he wants to win this race. I know you guys want to see it. There isn't a battle to cover.
Yeah, you saw him go wide there. That is the worst place on the track to make a mistake, because then you're thinking about it, and if you have your delta bar on, which you can do in the sim, you just see that number grow and grow and grow as you go down the straightaway, knowing that you scrubbed a little bit of speed and kind of gave it away. So that's going to be unfortunate for Delgado. We'll see if he can rebound, but yeah, like you said, 2.3 seconds now with 2.5 minutes to go. That's going to be a tough gap to draw to a close.
This is a totally different story, though. A completely different battle, a little ways further back of those Division 2 guys. This is your Division 1 kind of midfield. Michael Pusick, Charles Hosey, and Miguel Colon, I believe, goes on through, as Love 46 is behind these guys. So Pusick actually goes by. Hosey is right here in this Porsche. That is actually one of the Morad Ferraris. And in fact, that is going to be driver number 142, Adam Brockway, who is a lap down. And Brockway is actually well down the order. I'm trying to find him. He is 22nd in class, 32nd overall. Rough day for him, but he lets these drivers go by and let them keep racing. You love to see that. You don't want to see lap cars holding anybody up this late in the race. Jason Allen, by the way, just to recap, he has fallen back of Alec Bergstrom by about a second. Likewise, Luen Hott losing on Jake Luther. And still, that's that first and second place fight in Division 2 separated by 2 seconds now with 2 laps to go.
Yeah, as we wind down, it's going to be tough for Delgado to make up all that ground. So I think Willis is probably looking pretty good at keeping on to that lead. We see Love 46 now making a move into turn 10. That's the battle we covered earlier. Oh, 3 wide almost? Nope, he thinks better of it. That is... No! Oh, no! They make contact!
Love 46 going to go around off the nose of Charles Jose, who is in that Porsche. And the Rockefeller Racing driver is going to go around in a very bad spot. This is a terrible place.
He's going to get the worst of it, and you cannot see anybody coming over that hill. So he's doing the right thing, waiting, trying to stay as far to the inside as he can. And looks like he'll get back going, but yeah, unfortunate. That was bad. That was gonna be a decent finish, and that's not what he wanted to see. As we see the white flag come out for our leaders now.
Yeah, John Sedlak just went through turn 1. He has taken the white flag, brought to you by Whiplash Simcams. One time around, he's got, look at that, Charles Jose right on his nose. We didn't have to go far to find him. That lapped car that just went around after contact with Love 46, now right on the nose of the Porsche of John Sedlak. He's got 4 seconds, though, does Sedlak, in that Firelight Esports Res Coffee Company IMB racewear machine. We'll look inside here on Charles. No opportunity. Wants to get past these lap cars, but has some time to work with. Down in Division 2, Dan Willis. Kind of a similar situation. He's got plenty of time, although it has condensed a little bit. He's run up to Luan Hot. Ricardo Delgado now starting to gain. We'll have to monitor that this last lap. Sedlak finally finding a lane to go by on this runway. On the back straightaway, Charles Jose doesn't want to move over, but finally, car number 203 is going to go from just trying to hang on and make some of these races, just trying to show up for JS Consulting and Victorum, to winning the first points-paying round of the North American Racing League and GT3 competition in 2023 and 2024, Season 5 Race 1 winner, Firelight Esports, John Sedlak.
Oh, and he sends it in there. And we look back now to the battle for Division 2. Dan Willis making a move into turn 10. Oh, and there's contact. He really wanted to put some gap between him and Ricardo Delgado, though. Looks like he will. Delgado's going to force the issue. He's going to get by, but that is going to be Dan Willis bringing home the Division 2 victory today from Road Atlanta.
Big last lap for Ricardo Delgado. He does not come through and take the win, though. 0.2 of a second shy. Guys, that was a good finish for Division 2. The rest of the field will come by slowly and wrap this race up. We still have a couple of battles. There's one of them down the hill, that bright yellow Andy Miller machine just ahead of the metallic blue Love 46 Ferrari. That is 14th and 15th overall, and that is just about the last fight on the racetrack. One more, it looks like. Bjorn Stange, Brent Cook, they come down the hill. They're in different classes. Meanwhile, Dominic Turcotte and Eric Leroy, that will complete your lead lap and your race here at Michelin Raceway, Road Atlanta. John Sedlak is an NARL winner, and Dan Willis joins him in victory lane from Division number 2. That is a good way to get this season started.
Absolutely. That's exactly how these drivers wanted to start that season. Starting it in victory lane, can't get much better than that. So great job to those guys, and well, I'm sure we'll have them in here to say a few words about how their race went.
That is a big day for John Sedlak out front. Scott Kimbrough goes second. We've got a whole list of results to go through. Let's take a look back at your unofficial race results and see who finished where in race number 1 on the season. Some big finishes across the board. It all starts, though, with Firelight Esports, number 203, John Sedlak behind the wheel of a Porsche. Finally brings the Porsche home to victory lane. Finally gets it done. That is a big start to the season for all of Firelight Esports. Scott Kimbrough, though, goes second place. Alec Bergstrom third. Jason Allen fourth. Milan Harris, a really strong top 5 across the board. I think these 5 drivers plus Miguel Colon are probably the drivers you're looking for the championship this season. They're all really strong in their own rights, and you could even throw in guys like John Kroom. Jake Luther apparently has speed. Luan Hot. You've got a really stacked Division number 1, and I think anybody can win these races from that top 7 or so drivers as we go on the rest of this season. Kroom and Luther, they're 6th and 7th. Dan Willis wins in Division 2. Ricardo Delgado just 0.2 of a second back. and has to settle for second place right behind that battle with Luan Hot. Luan gives up that spot at the end, but that was real close. Down to the wire, turns 11 and 12 the last lap.
Absolutely, and we'll move on to 11th through 20th in the results. Will Coffey bringing it home in 11th. Miguel Colon rebounded, has had some issues early on apparently, and rebounded for a nice day where he might not have to take this race as a drop all the way back up to 12th. Michael Puchik in 13th. Andy Miller and Love 46 had a great battle for 14th and 15th. Bobby Flack, the new addition, finishes 16th. Josh Lyon, our next Division II, he is going to stand on the Division II podium, 17th overall, not a bad showing for the season debut. Aubrey Kundle in 18th. Brent Cook brings home 19th, and Bjorn Stange rounds out the top 20 and finishes P4 in Division II.
Dominic Turcotte goes 21st. Eric Leroy there at 22nd. A brand new team between Andy Miller and Eric Leroy. Good to have them in the series. They've both finish on the lead lap in round 1. Ronaldo Carlos goes a lap down after his mistake of his own doing, just simply lost the car late in this one out of the race lead. Charles Hosey goes 24th. Scott Reister 25th after his mistake entering pit lane. And really from here on down, for the most part, you find drivers who made one or two small mistakes and just simply ended up losing whatever good run they had going. Brett DiGiacomo in 26th, Nicholas Sykes in 27th. On down the line, you have Thomas Rayleigh, who spun out of turn 1 in 28th, Jonathan Ballard 29th, and Jeff Fleischman, we didn't see much of car 10, he finishes 30th.
Yep, continuing results. Billy Bowerman brings home 31st, Adam Brockway in 32nd, Jay Robinson, Otto Rosa, and Sean Patterson, a slew of Division II cars, 33rd, 34th, and 35th. Stacy Bertrand finishes 36th, and then Glenn Dryden finishes 37th, and now we get into the cars that really didn't have great days. Keith Rulford, 5 laps behind the leader, Robert Guadagnoli, 8 laps, Austin Tiller, all those guys didn't have the best of days, so they'll look to rebound in the next week.
See most of the rest of the field. I mean, some really tough days for guys like Joe Nagy back here, Martin Kremigna, who I think will be strong this season, even Dean Kerr in his own division. Mike Braun back here 48th. That is a terrible start to the season for somebody we know will contend. Avon Dorsey, a lot of guys back here through 56 entries. Look at that. Really unfortunate to see such a bad start to the season for some of these drivers that we know will contend later on in the season, but might have to write this season off unless they can get 5 perfect rounds from here. And you know what? When we get down to that endurance round, that is going to throw every extra spanner in the mix, as our own JP Costa, who is no longer with us at the channel. He's still doing great in real life. Hasn't been with us for a while, but shout out to JP. He's been a big, long-standing part of pit stop for these NARL races. We don't expect him back this season. Hopefully we can get something going at some point, though. And I've been stalling a little bit to see if the vote was going to change. Dan Willis, though, is your round 1 driver of the day. The vote will go final at the end of us reading results. Dan Willis, driver of the day for Maradness. He takes advantage of Ronaldo Carlos' mistake and just wins over Ricardo Delgado. A big day for Dan Willis. He'll get some extra cash for that one. John Sedlak, though, goes to victory lane. And finally, driver 203 gets to celebrate in the North American Racing League as a race winner. John, did you ever think you'd see the day?
You know, I did, when you asked me last week or during the media race, I didn't want to say anything, but I had high hopes and a lot of expectation going into this race. So yeah, great to see everything fall into place, and unfortunate that we had some server issues again.
It happens to the best of us, whether it's the server or drivers on the racetrack, or even the broadcast happened to us again. But hey, really good racetrack, a really good race on the racetrack, which is a home racetrack for Firelight Esports, your team. I think you live in the area?
I do not. I live in
Okay.
New Jersey, but this is,
Completely
I would call
different.
this my home track. I love this track. I've obviously won some big races here. And yeah, it's a phenomenal track.
honorary home track win for driver 203. And this kicks off the season in a way you've never had. You're out front now, able to look back on everybody else. Is there a little bit of maybe double taking going into round 2 at Detroit? I mean, it's maybe the scariest place to go to for a second race of the season.
You know, not gonna lie, my confidence has increased after this win. I don't know how well I'll do the rest of the season, but Detroit is another track that I absolutely adore. So I'm gonna put in the hard work and see what we can do. And the rest of the season doesn't look too bad either.
Well, congratulations, John. The scoring partner of the North American Racing League gets to score himself first place after today, and that's pretty darn cool. John, congratulations.
Thank you.
Of course, you can follow John on Twitch, Diesel Dad on Twitch. Make sure to check him out. It's definitely worth your time. Second place this evening in Division 1, it's going to be Scott Kimbrough. And Daniel, this is a big win for this team member. Not big win. It's going to feel like a win. P2 after today is going to feel like a win for Team Empire.
Yeah, absolutely. These guys been putting in the work, and Scott, second place, one spot short. What could you have done, and maybe run down John there?
Nothing, I don't think. He was super quick, and I think we were both trying to conserve a little bit of fuel. I definitely didn't get any cooperation from the lap cars at the end. Kind of got backed up a little bit, so it just is what it is. And I really couldn't push to try to catch him because I was right on the number for fuel. So I'm happy as can be to have skated through and got second place. So I'll take it and move on to the next one.
That's cool. So you mentioned the fuel number there. Is that part of the strategy? Do you think that's going to be most of the strategy kind of all season?
It definitely can be. I mean, if you look at the times here, there's so many guys that are kind of run all the same speed.
Like
So short fill a little bit, might help you pick up a spot or two.
That's cool. We'll definitely keep an eye on that kind of the rest of the season. So I know you, and I know your love for road street courses. So you're really looking forward to Detroit next week, aren't you?
I am happy to get out of Georgia and head towards Detroit. Definitely.
Awesome. Well, good luck the rest of the year. Hopefully we'll get to talk to you again, and congrats on starting the season off pretty well with the second place.
I appreciate it, Daniel. Thank you guys very much for the broadcast. See you next week.
Yep.
Scott
That was
Kimbrough, a big day for him, and it's interesting that he's excited for a street course in this GT3 field with 56 drivers who are still pretty new to each other, whether it's new for the first time or new for the first time in months. That is a big time confidence boost for those two drivers who finished top 2 apparently, because John Sedlak is excited for it too. I wouldn't be, but I can't blame him. If you're on top of the world, you're on top of the world. Meanwhile, on top of the Division 2 world, Dan Willis goes position number 1, but position number 8 overall. Regardless, Dan, it's a win in class. That is the best possible way you could start a season in Division 2, especially running inside of the top 10. How did your night go behind the steering wheel?
Wow, that Miratinous Ferrari 296 GT3 sure was fast tonight. It started off pretty sketchy because there were a number of people who had some quality and connection issues right at the race start. So for the first lap, it was pretty chaotic. It just really had to try and manage a car. People are spinning in front of me. I think I made contact with somebody even before we went green. So started off pretty rough, and I just tried to keep the car clean, and I was able to do that and settle in. And thanks to the M squad helping me out, helping me find a couple of tenths here and there throughout the course of the week prepping, I was able to be fairly consistent and stay out of trouble. I don't know what happened to Ronaldo. Ronaldo was really quick. I'm not really sure what happened to him, because I thought he had the win hands down. And when we finished the race, one of my teammates jumped in and said, "Hey, dude, I can't believe it. Like, you just won." I'm like, "What do you mean I won? I didn't even know."
Sure enough, Ronaldo Carlos got, I don't know if it was tight or loose, through turn 5, hit the outside wall, and let you and Ricardo go by. So if you had no clue, Ricardo and Luan, had to get by Luan, I suppose, to stay ahead of Ricardo. Ricardo was trying to get you for the win. If you had no clue, would you have done anything different in that battle, or are you just happy it worked out the way it did?
No, I was really focused on Ricardo. He was quick. He clearly saved his left front more than I did. So he was faster later in the run. So I don't think it would have changed anything. I was going to talk to Luan a little bit. He did a good job of letting us by, but I think if he intended to let us by, maybe he could have done so a little bit better. We would have had a better battle at the end, but I'm really happy how it turned out. A great first race for the Radness M Squad. Really happy about it, and looking forward to a great season.
And Dan, we've spoken with you before, but how about the pressure with Dan Morad watching in the YouTube chat, going out there and being, I believe, the top Radness M Squad driver of the entire field, finishing 8th in overall and then 1st, of course, in your class. That's got to be a little bit of added pressure, but it has to also feel pretty good to start the season this way and have that healthy pressure.
It's definitely healthy pressure. We all push each other, whether it's in practice or even just chatting. So, wow, I actually think Alec Bergstrom finished above me. He is in D1, but I think he finished on the podium as well.
You're right. Yep.
So, but anyways, yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of pressure. I want to perform. I want to represent Dan Morad as best as I possibly can. And tonight, I don't know how much better I could have done.
Fantastic job, Dan. Good to talk to you. Hopefully we're talking to you more this season.
Thank you. Thanks for the broadcast. Really appreciate all the work you do. Looking forward to next week.
There we go. Dan Willis, position number 1 in the class that matters most to him. And we do finally have Ricardo Delgado ready to go, 2nd place in Division 2. Just missed out on the win, Daniel, by 0.2 of a second.
Yeah, we got Ricardo here, and he was making a run there. Ricardo, do you think you maybe had an extra lap you could have got by and challenged for the win in class?
I mean, if I wouldn't have been hauled by a lap car, like a lap 34 or something like that, I was like 0.8 behind Dan. Then a lap car got between us and pulled me back like 2 seconds plus, so I had to drive it back again.
Yeah, well, traffic's going to seem to be a common theme among our interviewees today. So still 2nd place, pretty good. Dan Willis was in here talking about how you may have saved your tires a little better. Was that something you really focused on and tried to make sure you had some car left at the end?
I mean, usually my style of driving saved me a little bit of tires since I'm not too aggressive on the steering wheel. Maybe that plays along with it.
Well, that's cool. That's going to serve you well in a couple of the races coming up, it sounds like. So congratulations on bringing home 2nd, and hopefully we can see you later on in some more interviews and maybe even on the top step of the podium.
Sure, guys. Thank you. A pleasure. And thank you for the broadcast.
Yep. That was 2nd place in Division 2, Ricardo Delgado. And Andrew, I'll throw it back to you. This race was exciting. It had a little bit of everything.
That it did. And in fact, in the replay right now, you can see the moment that Delgado nearly had that opportunity at Dan Willis for the finish. Let's back it up and run through it at real time. On board with Delgado down to turn 10. Every opportunity, he just couldn't quite get there. I mean, he got as close as he possibly could. He made up 2 seconds, I think, in a lap. I don't think there's much more you can ask for from a driver, given the circumstances.
Yeah, it looked like he gained 2 seconds in that corner. He fired it into turn 10, and that set him up just to be right on the tail of Dan coming across the line. So, yeah, that race that came down right to the end. So, if we get more of that racing all season, I'm excited.
Meanwhile, here's Dan Willis and his move on Luan Hot into turn 10. This is really worth watching one more time. This is down to the wire, somebody trying to win in his class and stay ahead of 2nd place in class. That is perfect. I mean, that is the perfect send that you need out of a driver to get the win. Radness M Squad has got to be proud. That is as close as it can get.
And he knew he had to make that move. He could not sit behind through that corner and risk Delgado getting to his rear bumper, and I know these drivers just like to race clean, but and going for a win, you can kind of make yourself do some things you didn't expect to do, as we see John Sedlak and a couple of his moves during the race that allowed him to seal the victory overall in Division 1.
Yeah, that was the pass on those couple of lap cars, but then what happens here across the line? Says he didn't mean to do it? Well, let's take a look as he takes a perfect race-winning Firelight Porsche and junks it down the front stretch. Oh, got away from him. Some celebratory swerves and a big crash there at the end of the front stretch. But regardless, what a great day from Car 203, and so many in the field. By the way, it's not just John that did a good job behind the wheel. This was a really good way to open the season up, and I'm really excited for what this season has in store for us. One more look at the schedule, Daniel. This is going to be a good season of racing, and we're moving through it at a higher pace than we ever have before. Only 6 points-paying rounds means we're already further in than we usually would be, one round in, by percentage, if you will. So we're already that much closer to crowning a champion February 3rd.
Yep, and we got Detroit right, the street circuit right off the bat, almost race 2 of the season. So we'll see what these drivers can take away from this one and use in the tighter confines of Detroit before I think we take a week off between that and heading to Watkins Glen. But that starts the stretch run of the season: Watkins Glen, Daytona, Willow Springs, and back-to-back weeks, and then finishing it all off with the endurance race at Road America. That'll be a great one to tune into.
A really cool season ahead for us. Next up, though, at Pit Stop TV, we're not quite out to round number 2 for these guys just yet. Our next broadcast will be Sunday evening, December 17th, the Icon Off-Season Mixed Mini-Series. We're on a figure 8, Dan. This is going to be an interesting day for us. They're taking any car they can and shoving it on this tiny little figure 8 track in Irwindale, California. I believe it's 11 free cars and 1 paid car because we can't broadcast a certain open wheel machine that would have been in it otherwise. So we're going to have fun, that's for sure. That's all I know, is we're going to have some fun on Sunday evening. It really is just for fun as well. I mean, it's their off-season series. They went most recently to New Hampshire Motor Speedway Road Course with the street stock. We didn't get to broadcast that event, but before that we had U.S. Legend Cars on the LA Coliseum for 180 laps, and that turned into an all-out brawl at the Coliseum. It was pretty fun to broadcast, but not a traditional race. So if you just want to relax and have some fun and watch some guys just go all out on Sunday evening, that's the broadcast for you at 7:45 Eastern. Then we get some classic short track racing right across the street from here. It's the Caffeine and Octane Linear Raceway for round number 9 of the Lucky Motorsports Street Stocks, brought to you by Elevated Performance. December 19th, that is the final round before the holiday break, the final race of 2023, with 7 races to go after it to crown a champion in those street stocks. 9:15 Eastern, be there across the street here in Brazelton, Georgia. And finally, we head out to Detroit Grand Prix on the Belle Isle Street Course on December 21st. On the solstice for the North American Racing League, the second points-paying race of the season, 9:50 Eastern. And following up a race like this, Daniel, that's going to be difficult.
Absolutely. These drivers are going to have to take what they learned here and use it to their advantage next week. And that'll be fun, tight little confines of Detroit. But follow along to all the action here on Pit Stop TV. You can see all the social media links down below: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, Kick, all of those Pit Stop TV. So follow along, follow us, and you'll see some great racing action all season long.
Well, that'll do it for us this evening. Not a whole lot else to go off of from there. A big shout out though to those who make it happen for us behind the scenes at the series and the broadcast. Infinite Racing Services, find them online at infiniteracingservices.com. I believe that's what it is. I was on the website earlier. InfiniteRacingS.com. So a little bit simpler, InfiniteRacingS.com, beautiful website. Go ahead and get yourself up to speed with Infinite Racing Services. And hey, Victorum, the official scoring provider for the North American Racing League, and of course, Screw Compressor Service Incorporated, helping us out here at NARL. Our partners here at the channel, of course, Whiplash Media SimCams, our official camera provider of the channel, ATVO, our overlays, and CC's Business helping us out as well. Dan, first broadcast in with us here at Pit Stop TV. How do you feel?
I'm good. I'm ready for the rest of the season. This will be a fun season to broadcast, and looking forward to joining you the rest of the way.
Definitely glad to have you here. And that'll do it for us. I mean, that is it for us here from Road Atlanta. Just in time to go catch the back end of the Chargers-Raiders game. It's an interesting one. That'll do it for us, though. It has been a pleasure, as always. A shout-out to the groups down below in audio, ATV, Whiplash, SimCams, OBS, and iRacing.com. We'll catch you in a week's time at Detroit. Otherwise, make sure to join us Sunday evening for some Irwindale figure 8 action with the Icon Cup Series. We'll see you next time.
I'm Jay Robinson. You're watching the North American Racing League on Pit Stop TV. My name is Jay Robinson and I live in Frederick, Maryland. This is my second season in the North American Racing League, and I'm excited to drive the 321 car against the best in Division 2.
Hi, I'm Brent Cook, driver of the number 67 Epic Fails Motorsports Ferrari, and I'm from Hampton, Virginia.
Hey guys, my name is Luan Hot. I'm from Brazil, I'm 20 years old, and I'm racing for you Race BR W2 Repro GP.
Eric Leroy, driver of the number 44 Maxwell Sim Racing Team Ferrari 296 GT3.
I'm Thomas Rayleigh, Porsche Cup Season 2 Menace, Porsche Cup Season 3 Pro-Am Champion, and I'm an Epic driver for Epic Fails Motorsports.